What was the world really like before the flood? Was it peaceful, or a place of corruption, violence, and power beyond imagination? Why did God feel he had no choice but to erase it completely? The answer will shock you. Before the flood, before the ice, before the age you know, there was a world that has been almost completely erased from memory. A world of colossal forests and giant creatures. A world where beings walked among humanity who were not entirely human. A world so corrupted, so genetically shattered, that only one catastrophic reset could save what remained of life on Earth. This is not mythology. This is not fantasy. Ancient texts, hidden for centuries, describe it in shocking detail. What the world was really like before the flood, the world that was. To understand what the flood destroyed, we must first understand what existed before it. The ancient Hebrew scholars called it Olam Harishan, the first world. A world that theologians, ancient historians, and even some scientists agree was profoundly different from the one we inhabit today. The timeline? Somewhere between 5,000 and 4,400 years ago, a period the Bible chronicles in the opening chapters of Genesis, and one that ancient texts from Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and Ethiopia corroborate with chilling consistency. The vapor canopy. Above the early earth, according to Genesis 1 verse 7, God placed a firmament, a division between the waters below and the waters above. Many creation scholars interpret this as a dense vapor canopy encircling the entire planet. This canopy would have acted like a planetary greenhouse. Temperatures were stable from pole to pole. No violent storms, no harsh winters, no burning deserts. The entire Earth was warm, lush, and teeming, a perpetual tropical environment stretching even to the poles. And we have evidence. Fossil forests of massive trees have been found beneath Antarctic ice. Fossil records of warm climate reptiles have been discovered in the Arctic. Something radical changed this world. The flood appears to be exactly that change. The vegetation, a world of giants. In this hyperoxygenated, greenhouse-warmed world, plants and fungi grew to staggering proportions. Fossil evidence points to organisms like the prototaxites, gigantic, pillar-like life forms that stretched over 6 meters tall, dominating the early landscape long before trees as we know them existed. Scientists have struggled to explain them under normal atmospheric conditions. But under a vapor canopy, under enhanced atmospheric pressure and enriched oxygen, suddenly, these giants make perfect sense. Ferns the size of buildings, root systems the size of city blocks, a world where even the vegetation was terrifying in its scale. The creatures, behemoths and leviathans, and the animals matched the vegetation. The Book of Job, widely considered one of the oldest texts in the Bible, describes two creatures in vivid detail. The behemoth, whose tail moved like a cedar tree and whose bones were like iron bars, and the leviathan, a fire-breathing creature that no man could tame. These are not poetic exaggerations. To the people who wrote these words, these creatures were real. They had seen them. They feared them. In this first world, humanity was not at the top of the food chain. Not even close. They came from the sky. Into this already dangerous world came something even more destabilizing. Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4 reads, and this passage is critical. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Who were the sons of God? The ancient Book of Enoch, a text so significant it was quoted directly in the New Testament book of Jude, and was found preserved among the Dead Sea Scrolls, answers this with uncomfortable precision. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, the sons of heaven saw and lusted after them, and they descended in the days of Jared. 1 Enoch 6:1-2. They were called the Iar, the Watchers, 200 angelic beings stationed to observe and oversee humanity. They watched, they guarded, until the day they chose to abandon their post. The descent, Mount Hermon. The Book of Enoch records their leader as Shemahaza, also rendered as Samiaza, an angel of high rank. He gathered 200 companions, and they took a collective oath. They would descend. They would take human women as wives, and they would reshape the world in their image. Their landing site, Mount Hermon, a real mountain standing today at the borders of Lebanon, Syria, and Israel. The name Hermon derives from a Hebrew root meaning consecration or a curse. Ancient inscriptions found at its summit indicate this was not a random landing. This was a deliberate crossing of a cosmic boundary that was never meant to be crossed. The forbidden knowledge. The Watchers did not arrive empty-handed. They brought knowledge, advanced, forbidden knowledge that humanity was not yet mature enough to wield. And each Watcher leader had a specific domain of teaching, cataloged by Enoch himself. Azazel, the most prominent, taught the forging of metal, swords, shields, knives, weapons of war that had never existed. He also taught cosmetic arts, the use of pigments, eyeliner, jewelry, and ornamentation. Vanity became weaponized. Samiaza taught sorcery and the cutting of magical roots. Armoros taught the resolving of enchantments, how to manipulate and break spiritual forces. Barakijal taught astrology, reading celestial movements for divination. Kokabel taught the charting of constellations. Tamiel taught astronomy. Esradal taught the lunar cycle. Others taught cloud reading, the signs of the earth, and the secrets of the human body itself. To a modern ear, some of this sounds harmless. But what the Book of Enoch makes devastatingly clear is this. All of it, in the hands of a humanity not yet equipped to steward it with wisdom, became an instrument of self-destruction. Civilization accelerated. In what should have taken millennia, humanity leapt forward in centuries. Metallurgy, architecture, cult science, cosmetics, warfare, not through patient development, through an injection of knowledge from beings who existed outside the natural order. Beings whose gift came with a price no generation was prepared to pay. The birth of the Nephilim. The unions between the Watchers and human women produced children. But these were not ordinary children. They were the Nephilim. The Hebrew word Nephilim comes from the root naphel, meaning to fall. They were the fallen ones. Hybrids, half celestial, half human, belonging fully to neither world. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. 1 Enoch 7:3-5. Beings without conscience. What made the Nephilim uniquely terrifying was not just their size. It was what they lacked. They consumed without limit. They drank blood. When livestock were exhausted, they turned on humanity itself. Cannibalism, perhaps the deepest violation of human dignity, became normalized in the antediluvian world. The whole earth, 1 Enoch records, began to cry out because of the violence these beings unleashed. Modern researchers studying these ancient records have noted something disturbing. The behavioral profile of the Nephilim mirrors what we would today classify as profound, untreatable psychopathy. No empathy, no remorse, no recognition of limits. They were beings of enormous capability and no conscience. The Nephilim did not merely terrorize. They organized, they built, they ruled. Ancient Near Eastern records, when read alongside Genesis, suggest these hybrid beings established kingdoms and dominated the political landscape of the antediluvian world. Human beings were no longer citizens. They were subjects, perhaps livestock. The Book of Giants, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, describes the Nephilim as boastful conquerors who contested even divine authority, certain of their invincibility. For a time, they were right. Two worlds collide. As the Nephilim consolidated power, the human population fractured into two distinct civilizations. The first followed the lineage of Cain, the cities, the technology, the metallurgy taught by the Watchers. Cain's descendants built the first recorded city in the Bible, named Enoch, not the prophet, but Cain's son. They developed music, craftsmanship, and industry. They embraced the Watcher gifts without restraint. The second followed the lineage of Seth, Adam's third son, born as a spiritual replacement for Abel. Seth's descendants attempted to preserve something pure, something uncontaminated. They were nomadic, connected to nature, and attempted to maintain a direct covenant with God without the mediation of fallen intelligences. The mixing and the collapse. But maintaining that separation was impossible. As populations grew, the lineage of Seth began interacting with the lineage of Cain. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, But this phrase may also describe the Scythites being seduced by the cultural and cosmetic advances of the Kainite civilization. The wall fell, the mixing accelerated, and with it came what ancient scribes described as the complete spiritual collapse of humanity. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Genesis 6 verse 5. Every imagination, only evil, continually. That is not hyperbole. That is a diagnostic, a civilization that had lost all internal moral compass. Lamech's declaration, the point of no return. Perhaps no single moment captures the moral freefall better than a passage that most readers skip over in Genesis 4. Lamech, a descendant of Cain, stands before his two wives and declares, "I have killed a man for wounding me, and a young man for injuring me." If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Genesis 4, 23-24. This is not grief. This is not confession. This is a boast. Lamech killed 2 people, one for wounding him, one merely for bruising him, and his response was to proclaim infinite retribution as a personal right. He had inverted the entire moral order. Human life had no more value than the inconvenience of a scratch. When a civilization reaches this point, when violence is not a tragedy but a trophy, it has passed the threshold of internal correction. Cosmic chemotherapy. And so we arrive at the question that has haunted believers and skeptics for thousands of years. Why the flood? The easy answer is divine punishment. Wrath. God offended by human sin. But the ancient texts point to something far more specific and far more urgent. The genetic integrity of Earth life itself had been compromised. The contaminated code. The Watchers had done something that went beyond cultural corruption or moral failure. They had mixed what was never meant to be mixed. The union of celestial and human biology had introduced something alien into the genetic heritage of Earth. And it was spreading. The Nephilim reproduced. Their offspring reproduced. Centuries passed. The contamination deepened. When God declared in Genesis 6 verse 12 that all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth, the Hebrew word used, kol basar, meaning all flesh, was not limited to humanity alone. The animals, the ecosystems, the biological code of the living world had been altered. This was not merely a moral crisis. It was a biological one. Noah, the one genome left. Genesis 6 verse 9 contains a phrase that most English translations render as, Noah was a righteous man. But the original Hebrew says something more precise. It says Noah was tamim, meaning complete, whole, unblemished. Some scholars translate it as genetically pure. Noah was not merely morally upright in a corrupt world. He was biologically intact in a genetically contaminated one. He was, perhaps, the last man on Earth whose human genome had not been altered by the Nephilim bloodlines. His family, 8 souls, represented the last uncontaminated seed of the original human design. The flood as cosmic chemotherapy. The flood, in this light, was not an act of rage. It was an act of surgical precision. Imagine a body with a cancer that has spread to nearly every tissue. The treatment, devastating, almost fatal, is chemotherapy. You destroy the contaminated tissue to give the healthy cells a chance to survive and rebuild. The flood was cosmic chemotherapy. The corrupted genetic heritage had to be removed. The Nephilim had to be ended. The Watcher knowledge that had accelerated human civilization beyond its moral capacity had to be buried under the water. The 8 souls on the ark were not saved because they were the most powerful, the most intelligent, or the most connected. They were saved because they were the most intact. The canopy breaks, and cold comes. When the vapor canopy collapsed, releasing the waters above, the earth transformed instantly. For the first time in human history, the poles experienced temperatures that froze everything. Woolly mammoths have been found in Siberia with undigested tropical vegetation still in their stomachs, flash frozen so quickly by the collapse of the canopy that their last meal never finished digesting. The world that emerged from the flood was a harder, colder, more dangerous version of the original. The greenhouse was gone. The giants were gone. The Watchers, according to Enoch, were bound and imprisoned in the earth until the final judgment. A new world was beginning, scarred, surviving, but beginning. The covenant and the new world. When the waters receded and Noah stepped onto the new earth, God made a covenant unlike any before it. A rainbow appeared in the sky, not merely a beautiful meteorological phenomenon, but, under the vapor canopy model, something that had never existed before. Rainbows require water droplets in open air. Under the canopy, there were none. The rainbow was the visible proof that the old world was gone. The canopy had fallen. The mechanism of another global flood could never again function in the same way. Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, and never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. Genesis 8:21. This was not an exhausted deity stepping back. This was a declaration that a new chapter had opened for humanity, one that would not have been possible without the catastrophic ending of the chapter before it. The antediluvian world was not a paradise carelessly destroyed. It was a world that had been infiltrated, contaminated, and ultimately consumed by forces it was never equipped to resist alone. Celestial beings who abandoned their purpose. Hybrid creatures who knew no limit. Human beings who chose the counterfeit gifts of fallen intelligences over their own spiritual inheritance. The flood did not end a golden age. It ended a nightmare. And from that ending came everything: the world you were born into, the civilization you stand inside, the sacred texts that still carry the memory of what happened. The Book of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the echoes in Genesis, all of them whispering the same thing across thousands of years. This has happened before. The patterns are recognizable, and the same choices are still available to every generation. The question the antediluvian world forces us to ask is not just what happened then. The question is, what are we building now? And is it tamim? Is it whole? If this video made you see the ancient world differently, that's exactly what we're here for. Subscribe for more stories hidden inside the world's oldest texts. Every day we go deeper into the mysteries, the patterns, and the questions that mainstream history never quite answers. The story of what came before the flood is just the beginning, because what the Watchers started did not fully end with the flood. That story is coming next. Subscribe and we'll see you there.